God says, someone is warning you about a person whose name begins with the letter M. Don't skip this moment, because the gentle voice of the Lord is whispering to your heart for a reason. Every stirring in your spirit, every nudge in your soul, is not an accident. It is God's way of calling you to pause, listen, and open your heart. He speaks in stillness. He moves in moments like these. His hands are over your life, and there is something He wants you to know today, not in fear, but in faith. When God sends a warning, it is not to frighten you, but to protect you. When He speaks through a message like this, it is because He sees what you cannot see and shields you before harm draws near. His love never sleeps, and His grace never misses a step. Type 1414 if you believe. You may feel confused, maybe even uncertain about what's happening around you lately. Perhaps you've noticed little things, small signs, odd feelings, unexplained hesitations when you're around a certain person whose name starts with M. It might feel like your spirit tightens a little, as if your heart is whispering something you can't put into words. That isn't your imagination, and it isn't a coincidence. That is God's discernment growing in you. The Holy Spirit doesn't always shout. Sometimes He just leans in close, gently tugging on the strings of your soul so that you know something isn't quite right. That tug is God saying, "Pay attention, I am here, I am guiding you." God does not want you to walk in fear, but He also does not want you walking blindly. When His Spirit raises a warning, it is always out of deep and unconditional love. He wants you safe, protected, and wrapped in wisdom. God knows every heart, every intention, and every motive, even the ones people try to hide. When someone is not meant to walk with you, He will whisper. And sometimes, when you do not hear, He will speak louder through circumstances. He will allow delays, confusions, distance, or even sudden clarity so that your eyes can see what your heart has already sensed. Type 222. If you trust in God, God wants to remind you that He is not only a God of blessings and open doors, but also a God of protection and closed paths. Not every person you meet is assigned to your destiny. Some are lessons, some are temporary, some are distractions wrapped in charm, and some are storms hiding in calm waters. It is the love of God that warns you before a storm breaks. It is the grace of God that gives you insight when you least expect it. He is never late, and He never forgets His promises to you. If you have been feeling something unsettling around someone whose name begins with M, don't rush past it, don't explain it away. God is not a God of confusion. He is a God of clarity. And when He puts something in your heart, it is because He wants to free you, not bind you. His voice will always lead to peace, even when the message feels heavy. He does not scare. He prepares. He does not judge. He guards. Even if that person seems kind, even if they speak sweetly, even if everything looks harmless, God sees the heart. He sees what's done in shadows. He hears what is said in silence, and He knows what you cannot. His warning is not an attack, it's a lifeline. He knows where that road leads. And if He is placing a sense of caution in your spirit, it's because He is pulling you away from something that could cost you peace, purpose, or healing. There is something powerful about trusting God, even when it makes no sense to your human understanding. It takes faith to walk away from what feels familiar. It takes courage to let go of people who once felt like home. But the deepest kind of strength is found when you say, "God, I don't understand this, but I will obey you anyway." He honors that. He blesses that kind of trust. And even when it hurts, even when it leaves you with questions, He will never leave you broken. He will use the obedience to build something better. Sometimes God removes people from your life because they would have damaged your soul. Sometimes He stops a conversation because it would have led to confusion. Sometimes He closes a door not because He is punishing you, but because he is about to open a better one with people who are aligned with his purpose for your life. He knows every plot of the enemy, and he always works in advance. If this warning is speaking to something you've been feeling but couldn't put into words, take this as confirmation that your spirit has been right. That sense of unrest was not just a passing thought. It was God planting discernment in your heart. Do not ignore it. Do not delay. You don't need drama. You don't need confrontation. You just need clarity. Pray, listen, surrender, and trust that when God asks you to step back, it's because He's setting you up for something better, safer, and more full of peace than anything you're leaving behind. In the quiet moments when you're unsure what to do, go to God. Whisper your worries to Him. Lay down your doubts. He will never leave you guessing. He may not always answer in the way you expect, but He will never go silent on you. He speaks through peace. He speaks through quiet convictions. He speaks through restlessness too. Listen for Him. He's always speaking love, always covering you in protection, and always waiting with open arms to guide you home. You might not understand it fully yet, but something inside you has begun to sense a presence that doesn't bring peace. Sometimes it shows up in moments when that person's name is spoken, or when you think about a decision that involves them. It's not panic. It's not suspicion. It's a calm unease. That's how God speaks when He wants to protect you without scaring you. He sends a whisper, a feeling, a pause in your heart that tells you, "This doesn't sit right." Type 444. If you believe God sees what you can't, God knows every step ahead of you. He sees the conversations behind closed doors. He hears the words that are spoken when you're not in the room. He watches over you not only when you pray, but also when you're completely unaware that you're even being protected. This is how much He loves you. This is how carefully He watches over your soul. And when He gives a warning about someone, it isn't to bring you fear. It's to give you a path to freedom before the chains even form. You may be feeling torn right now. You might have been praying, asking God to show you what's real, asking Him to open your eyes. This message is part of that answer. There are people who walk into your life looking like blessings, but beneath the surface they are carrying things that can shake your peace. God sees through appearances. He doesn't judge by charm or smiles or empty promises. He judges the heart. He knows the truth of every soul. And when someone's presence is not meant for your journey, He will slowly begin to shift your path away from them. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to explain anything. You don't even need to have all the answers. What matters most is that you're willing to trust the stillness, to trust the unease, and to follow the peace. Sometimes, peace comes from letting go. Sometimes, God gives peace not through the presence of someone, but through their absence. It might not feel like a miracle at first. It might feel like confusion, or even heartbreak. But later, when the pieces fall into place, you will look back and realize that what God was doing was saving you. You are not losing anything. You are being delivered. You are not walking away in weakness. You are walking forward in strength. The enemy's greatest trap is often disguised as something familiar, something you think you need, someone who offers comfort but drains your spirit. And when that person's name begins with M, and something inside you has hesitated again and again, it is time to listen. God does not bring warnings without a reason. When you're walking with Christ, He gives you spiritual eyes to see what natural eyes cannot. You may not know the full story now. You may not know what that person has said or done in the background. But God does, and He is your defender. He is the light that exposes what's done in darkness. He is the Father who refuses to let His child walk into harm. That's who He is. He never punishes with truth. He heals with it. If something has felt heavy in your soul lately, like confusion or distance or restlessness, stop and give it to God. Sit in silence and ask Him to take it from your shoulders. His Spirit will always lead you away from chaos and into calm. If your mind has been spinning, wondering why things feel off with this person, ask God for wisdom. He won't just give you clarity, He will wrap you in peace. And once He reveals the truth to your heart, He will give you the strength to move forward. Type 555. If you know God is working even in silence, sometimes God removes people from your life because their presence is delaying your healing. Not every person is meant to understand your heart. Not every soul will honor your spirit, and no matter how strong the connection may seem, if it is not of God, it cannot remain. That is why things start to break down. That is why conversations start to feel hollow. That is why the joy begins to fade and the weight grows heavier. God is untying the knots before they tighten. If you've been ignoring the signs or convincing yourself it's all in your head, take a moment to ask God to give you confirmation. He will not leave you in confusion. He is a God of order, of clarity, of truth. He won't force you to obey Him, but He will never stop guiding you toward what's best for your soul. And when He gives you an instruction, even if it means letting go, it's because He already has something greater ahead. Do not look back in regret. Look forward with faith. What you release in obedience, God will always replace in abundance. It might take time, it might test your heart, but it will never leave you empty. God fills the spaces that obedience leaves behind. He fills them with peace, with joy, with new beginnings that carry no sorrow with them. Your future is in God's hands, not in the hands of anyone who makes you feel small, uncertain, or uneasy. Anyone who does not bring peace into your life is not carrying God's presence in your story. Do not fear the distance. Sometimes the silence is the answer. Sometimes the unanswered messages, the missed calls, the change in behavior are not rejections, they are God's protection. Receive it, welcome it, trust it. There are moments when God speaks once, and there are moments when He repeats Himself because He knows how easily the heart can doubt what the Spirit already knows. This is one of those moments where His voice comes again, not louder but deeper, settling into your soul with quiet authority and steady love. He is not rushing you, and He is not pressuring you. He is inviting you to trust Him fully. Type yes to affirm God knows how difficult it can be to accept that someone you once felt safe with may not be meant to remain close to you. He understands the memories, the conversations, the shared time, and the emotional ties that make letting go feel heavy. God is not blind to your emotions, and He is not dismissing your pain. He is walking with you through it. When He gives a warning, He does so with compassion, knowing it may ache at first but will heal you in the end. His love is gentle, but His protection is strong. Sometimes the most painful goodbyes are the ones God asks you to make quietly, without explanation, without conflict, and without drama. He asks you to step back, not because you are weak, but because you are growing. Growth often requires distance from what once felt familiar. God is shaping your heart, teaching it to rest only where His peace lives. If someone disrupts that peace consistently, God will never ask you to endure it in silence. He will always offer a way out that preserves your dignity and your spirit. You may notice that when you think about this person, your joy fades slightly, or your energy feels drained. You may sense that after interactions with them, your spirit feels heavy instead of lifted. These are not small things. God pays attention to what weighs on your heart because He designed you to live in freedom, not in emotional bondage. He does not want you to shrink to keep someone else comfortable. He does not want you to silence your discernment to maintain a connection that costs you peace. God is teaching you how to listen to Him in the quiet moments. Not every warning comes with chaos. Some arrive as calm clarity. Some arrive as a sudden sense of distance. Some arrive as a deep knowing that something must change. God does not confuse His children. He leads them gently, step by step, never forcing, always inviting. If He is leading you away from someone, He is also leading you closer to Himself. There is a season for every connection. Some people are meant to walk with you only part of the way. That does not make them evil, and it does not make you unloving. It simply means God's plan for you does not include their continued presence. God is not removing love from your life. He is refining it. He is teaching you the difference between attachment and alignment, between comfort and calling, between familiarity and faith. You are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to walk away from confusion. You are allowed to listen to God even when others may not understand your decision. God never requires you to sacrifice your well-being to prove your faith. Obedience to Him brings rest, not exhaustion. When He leads you, He carries the weight you were never meant to bear alone. If fear has tried to creep in, remind your heart that God goes before you. He does not warn without also preparing a better path. He does not close one door without opening another that leads to greater peace. Even if you cannot see what's ahead yet, trust that what God is building is safer, stronger, and more aligned with who He created you to be. His plans are never random. His timing is never careless. Type 1212. If you walk by faith, God sees the future clearly, even when the present feels unclear to you. He knows what conversations would have happened, what situations could have unfolded, and what wounds might have formed if you stayed where He is asking you not to remain. His warning is an act of mercy. It is Him stepping in before pain takes root. It is Him shielding your heart while you are still learning how to guard it yourself. Let go without resentment. Release without bitterness. Trust without needing full understanding. God will honor the quiet obedience that no one else sees. He will reward the faith that chooses Him over familiarity. And in time, He will heal any ache that comes with letting go. What feels like loss now will one day feel like relief. What feels like confusion now will become clarity. This warning is not about pointing fingers or sowing fear. It's about giving you the wisdom to recognize what your spirit has already been sensing. God doesn't always explain everything at once, but He always reveals what you need when you're ready to hear it. And if you've been reading this with a quiet stirring in your chest, then He is speaking to you again, reminding you to trust His voice over all others. Type 1919 to receive miracles. There is no limit to the ways God watches over you. He walks ahead of you, behind you, and beside you. He sees every conversation, every motive, and every hidden part of every heart. So when He gently places a name or a face into your thoughts and presses pause in your spirit, don't ignore that. It is not just coincidence. It is not just overthinking. It's divine discernment being born in you. That tug at your heart is not fear, it's a warning wrapped in love. God knows you so well, and He knows what could hurt you even before it ever touches your life. This person whose name begins with M may not even seem harmful at first glance. They may be polite, helpful, and even kind in their words, but God does not judge by appearance. He sees the heart, and He knows what's behind the mask. Not every smile comes from a pure place, and not every connection is meant to last. God has a way of gently allowing things to unravel when they are no longer aligned with His will for you. And if you've noticed tension, if you've felt drained or unsettled around this person, it's time to pay attention to that feeling. That's your soul recognizing what your mind hasn't yet explained. You are not being judgmental for wanting peace. You are not wrong for stepping away from what no longer feels spiritually safe. It doesn't mean you hate anyone, and it doesn't mean you're closing your heart to love. It means you're listening to the Holy Spirit, and you're letting God lead you instead of emotion. Emotion can change. God's guidance remains steady, and He will always lead you to protection before He leads you to blessing. He will never take you into new seasons while you're still holding on to what could destroy your joy. If you've tried to force things with this person, maybe giving too many chances, maybe explaining yourself over and over, Maybe hoping they'll change. Know that God is not angry with you. He understands the desire to see the good in people. He made you with compassion, with love, and with a heart that longs to forgive. But He also made you with wisdom, and that wisdom is growing now. Some people are not ready to walk in the same light God has called you to, and you can't dim your spirit to make them comfortable. Type 666 if you trust Jesus. Letting go can be painful, especially when your heart was involved. But there is no peace in staying where God is asking you to leave. The longer you stay in spaces not meant for you, the harder it becomes to hear His voice. You don't need to force distance or create noise. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is quietly step back, close the door with grace, and let God handle the rest. He sees your efforts. He knows how hard you've tried. But He also knows what you need now is rest. He wants to fill your heart with peace again. He wants to show you that obedience is never loss. It's always preparation. You're not walking away from someone, you're walking into deeper protection. Every act of obedience opens the door to fresh blessings. Even if it's painful now, it will turn into healing. God never leaves a wound uncovered. He will tend to every part of your heart. Do not worry about what others will say or think. When God speaks to you, it's personal. No one else has to understand your journey. No one else has to agree with what you feel led to do. Your spirit answers to Him first. When you honor that voice inside, when you give space to what God is showing you, you are choosing truth over comfort. And that's where real growth begins. God is preparing you for better. He's not only removing what's harmful, but He's making space for what's holy. He's making room for peace that stays, for people who uplift, for moments that heal. He's pulling you out of the storm before you even knew the clouds were gathering. That is who He is. He rescues before you call. He restores before you even know what's missing. So today, don't feel guilty for choosing peace. Don't carry shame for listening to God's warning. Don't question whether you made the right decision. If your soul feels lighter, if your mind feels calmer, if your spirit feels clearer, that is all the confirmation you need. God never leads you away from something unless it was holding you back from something greater. When God places a name in your heart, He does it with reason. He is not trying to trouble you. He is lovingly pointing out where peace is being stolen, where joy is being dulled, and where your spirit has started to carry a weight it was never meant to hold. Type 2323 if you agree. There's a gentle way God speaks when He wants to protect you. He won't always shake the ground or shout from the heavens. Sometimes He simply whispers into your heart, a pause, a hesitation, a discomfort you can't explain. And you feel it when you're around that person. Their words don't match their energy. Their presence doesn't bring rest. And though everything on the outside looks fine, deep within something stirs. That is God showing you the truth that eyes alone can't see. That is Him wrapping you in discernment before you even know how much you need it. Many people miss God's warnings because they are too focused on what they see with their physical eyes. But God doesn't guide us through sight, He guides us through spirit. And when your spirit is alert, when your heart is listening, you'll know that name that keeps coming to mind, that feeling that grows stronger the more you pray, that heaviness that won't go away. These are all ways God nudges your soul, asking you to pay attention, to look again, and to lean into Him for the truth. It's not easy to accept that someone you care about may be wrong for you. It's not easy to realize that not everyone who enters your life comes with good intentions. But God is not asking you to figure it all out on your own. He is simply asking you to trust Him enough to step back when your peace starts slipping. He's asking you to trust Him more than you trust your emotions. He's asking you to choose quiet obedience over loud confusion. Type 2020 to claim miracles. When God reveals something to you about a person, especially someone close to your heart, it may not always come with immediate understanding. You might wrestle with it, question it, or try to dismiss it. But over time, the fruit of their presence begins to show. Does your spirit feel lighter after you spend time with them, or heavier? Do they speak life into your dreams and remind you of your worth in God? Or do they subtly pull you away from your purpose, your peace, and your prayer life? God wants your circle to be filled with people who reflect His light, not people who quietly cast shadows over your faith. And when someone begins to distract you from the voice of God, even unintentionally, He will step in, not to shame them, but to shield you, because He knows that your destiny is too precious to be compromised by someone who can't walk with you at the same spiritual depth. You've probably tried to convince yourself to give them more time, to be patient, to keep hoping they'll change. And while grace is important, God also gives you boundaries for a reason. Grace doesn't mean you ignore your spirit. Grace doesn't mean you continue to pour into someone who only drains you. Grace means you can release them in love while still honoring the peace God is calling you into. You were never meant to carry relationships that cost your joy. You were never meant to sacrifice your peace just to keep someone else comfortable. And you certainly weren't created to walk through life second-guessing what your heart already knows. God gives warnings so you don't have to experience unnecessary pain. He gives insight so that you can walk in wisdom, not regret. And if you've been feeling conflicted about that person whose name begins with M, take this as God answering the quiet question you've been asking for weeks. He's not asking you to make a dramatic exit. He's not asking you to create conflict. He's asking you to listen, to truly listen, and begin to take steps in the direction of healing, even if that healing means creating space. Because in that space, God will meet you. He'll speak to you more clearly. He'll give you the comfort and confirmation you've been waiting for. And He will never allow you to lose anything without giving you something better in return. You are not being cold. You are not being selfish. You are learning how to protect the spirit God placed within you. You are learning how to trust what you feel, even when you can't explain it. And you are growing into someone who no longer entertains what doesn't bring peace. That is maturity. That is faith. That is freedom. As you let go, expect peace to return. Expect sleep to come easier. Expect your thoughts to quiet down. Expect your energy to rise again. These are all signs that you've released what was never meant to stay. And in its place, God will begin to send people who love from a pure place, who walk in light, who speak truth, and who carry joy. People who will remind you how beautiful it feels to be surrounded by hearts that reflect His. He speaks again and again because He knows the importance of your peace, the value of your healing, and the weight of your destiny. He doesn't give up on His children, and He will keep speaking until your heart begins to understand what your spirit has already whispered. Something is not right. Type Amen if you believe you've been walking with a heaviness that you haven't been able to explain. There have been moments of confusion that seem to come out of nowhere. You've smiled and stayed calm, yet deep inside, a quiet unease has followed you. It shows up after conversations. It lingers in still moments. It touches your spirit like a soft warning you can't shake. That feeling is not just a passing emotion. That is God trying to reach you, to protect you, to open your eyes to something He doesn't want you to miss. The name M may belong to someone you've trusted, someone you've welcomed, someone you believed in. But not everyone who walks into your life is sent by God. Some come to test your faith. Some come to distract your spirit. Some come looking like light, but carry quiet shadows behind their words. And when God begins to show you who they really are, it's not to make you angry. It's not to turn your heart cold. It's so you can stop giving your energy to someone who was never meant to carry your heart. God never asks you to stay where you are shrinking. He never calls you to silence your spirit just to maintain a relationship. When He sees your peace being chipped away, when He sees your joy fading, He moves in love. He starts opening your eyes to the truth. He gives you wisdom that begins with a stirring, a shift, a subtle pull away. That's His mercy. That's His grace. That's his hand holding yours as he leads you out of what would only cause more confusion. This person whose name begins with M may not be doing anything dramatic. They may even be trying to present themselves in the right light. But God is not fooled by appearance. He knows the real condition of every heart. He sees intentions that haven't been spoken. He hears thoughts that never become words. And he wants to protect you from pain that hasn't yet touched your life but could if you ignore his voice. Type 1111 if you trust in God. Even if you don't have full proof, even if you can't explain what you feel, you can still obey the peace of God. You don't have to wait until it hurts to walk away. You don't have to wait until something breaks to make a change. You are allowed to walk away when God places a quiet truth inside you. You are allowed to choose peace, even if no one else understands why. And the more you listen, the stronger your discernment becomes. This is how God protects his children. He doesn't just step in when things go wrong. He whispers long before the damage begins. And when you listen to those whispers, you are walking in wisdom. You are choosing safety over sentiment. You are growing into the kind of person who trusts God more than feelings, more than memories, more than the need to hold on. Letting go is not rejection, it's redirection. When you choose to release someone who's not aligned with God's path for you, you're making room for the right people to enter your life. You're opening the door for friendships and relationships that are filled with honesty, love, and shared faith. You're giving your heart space to breathe again. God honors those who obey him, even when it's hard. He will never ask you to give something up without replacing it with something better. If he's showing you that this person is not good for your spirit, trust that he's also preparing someone who will speak life into you, who will pray for you, who will walk beside you in truth and kindness. Don't let guilt hold you back. Don't let fear silence your obedience. And don't let memories convince you to stay in a space where your spirit no longer rests. What God is asking from you now is simple. Be still, listen, and follow his lead. He is not rushing you, but he is guiding you. He's gently helping you see that peace is the sign, and anything that keeps taking from your peace is not carrying his presence. You may not understand everything now, but in time, you'll see why he kept repeating this message. You'll look back and realize that his warning was not just about a person. It was about preparing you for a higher level of peace, a deeper level of clarity, and a future free from avoidable pain. He was getting your attention because he loves you far too much to stay silent. You may have tried to reason with yourself, to quiet that still voice, to ignore the signals you keep receiving, but God is gently drawing your attention once more. He does not want you walking into a situation he's already seen the end of. He doesn't want you building on unstable ground. He loves you too much to let you stay blind. Type 222 if you trust God to guide your steps. You see, the love of God isn't only found in open doors and bright blessings. It's also found in his warnings, in his delays, in the quiet redirection when he sees something you don't. A relationship can seem harmless, even helpful, but if God is pulling you back from it, there's a reason beyond what the eye can see. He hears the conversations you'll never hear. He watches the thoughts that no one else can. And if his spirit has stirred within you about this person, it's because he's trying to protect your soul, not punish your heart. You may have prayed, asking God to make things clear. You may have asked for peace, for direction, for signs. And then, things began to feel strange, maybe distant, maybe uncomfortable, maybe uncertain. That was not confusion. That was the answer. God often answers us through what we feel when we are close to something that isn't meant to be part of his plan for us. That tightness in your chest, that heaviness in your thoughts, that restlessness in your spirit, they are not random. They are red flags wrapped in the voice of God. You have to understand, child of God, that not every connection is meant to stay. Some were only meant to be part of the lesson, not the future. And when God senses danger ahead, even emotional or spiritual danger, he begins to pull you back. He might not remove the person right away, Instead, he starts to remove your comfort around them. That's his mercy. That's his way of inviting you to trust him without seeing the full picture. There is no shame in stepping back. There is no guilt in guarding your heart. You are allowed to say, God, I don't understand it all, but I feel something, and I trust you more than I trust my own understanding. That kind of trust will always be honored. That kind of faith will always be protected. You don't have to make a scene, and you don't need to explain it to anyone. When God gives you peace to walk away, it's all the confirmation you need. Type 1212 if you walk by faith. The person whose name starts with M might still be in your life, or they might already be fading into the background. Maybe it's someone who keeps coming up in your thoughts unexpectedly. Maybe it's someone you're still unsure about, but every time their name surfaces, there's a heaviness. Every time you interact, your spirit feels unsure. That's not fear, that's not overthinking, that's discernment. Discernment is one of the most powerful gifts God gives his children. It is his way of teaching you to see not with your eyes but with your spirit. It's what keeps you from walking into traps. It's what leads you out of unhealthy patterns. It's what saves you from heartache that never needed to happen. And once God activates discernment in you, he expects you to trust it, to value it, and to act on it. This warning is not about exposing anyone. It's about exposing the truth that your heart has been trying to ignore. It's about giving you the chance to step away in peace before pain becomes the teacher. If you wait until things fall apart, the healing takes longer. But when you listen to God early, you save yourself from wounds you were never meant to carry. This is your time to choose wisdom over comfort, to choose peace over people, to choose God's direction over your emotions. That's not weakness, that's strength, that's maturity, that's spiritual growth. And yes, it might sting a little at first. It might feel lonely, but don't let the discomfort of obedience keep you in a place where your soul doesn't belong. You are not being dramatic. You are not being overly cautious. You are listening to the voice of the one who sees the whole story. And the moment you say yes to his guidance, everything begins to shift. Doors close. Peace returns. Clarity comes. Healing begins. You find rest because you are no longer fighting against what your spirit has known all along. God is proud of you. He sees how you're trying to be patient, how you're trying to understand, how you're trying to walk in love, but he also sees what this connection is doing to your peace, to your focus, to your joy. And he is saying, it's time to trust me. Even if it means letting go, even if it means walking away, even if it means being misunderstood. Because what he has for you ahead is greater than anything you're being asked to release. He doesn't stop speaking because you didn't respond the first time. He is patient, gentle, and completely devoted to your well-being. So he whispers again. He speaks again. He reminds you, again, because he knows what you need, and he knows the timing of every moment in your life. Type 555 if you know God is working even in silence. There's a kind of love that holds on even when you resist it. That's the kind of love God has for you. He doesn't just want to bless you, he wants to protect you. That means there will be times when he asks you to let go of people you care about. Not to punish you, not to take something away from you, but to create room for something better, something whole, something right, something filled with peace instead of confusion. You may not be certain how to feel. You may be asking, but what if I'm wrong? God understands that question. He knows how hard it is to listen to the quiet voice of discernment when everything on the outside seems normal. But this is why he speaks through the Spirit. This is why he gives us a feeling, a sense, a pull in our soul that doesn't go away. That is his way of saying, there is something I see that you don't. When a person starts to bring a slow and steady heaviness into your life, it is not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like small discomforts, Sometimes it feels like emotional fatigue. Other times it shows up as a loss of peace you can't quite explain. That's how the enemy hides himself in subtle patterns that wear down your joy over time. And when God sees it happening, He calls you back. Not in fear, in love. You were created to walk in truth and peace. You were not made to carry connections that constantly pull you away from the presence of God. And even if that person whose name begins with M has been part of your life for a long time, it doesn't mean they are meant to stay. Some people are placed in our lives to teach us something. Others are placed to test our obedience. And then, there are those who come into our lives simply so that we learn how to walk away. God never takes anything from you without giving you more of Himself in return. He doesn't just lead you out, He leads you forward. And as He brings this message again and again to your heart, it's not because He wants you to act out of fear, but because He wants you to walk in wisdom. Type yes to affirm. If you feel like you've been going in circles with this person, if the relationship has become a cycle of doubt, confusion, or inconsistency, that is not from God. He is not a God of chaos. He doesn't lead through emotional roller coasters. He leads through peace. And the moment you begin to trust Him over your fears, the fog will lift. You don't have to have every detail. You don't need a dramatic revelation. Sometimes, the softest warnings are the most important ones. Sometimes, the lack of peace is the answer you've been searching for. And if that's what you've been feeling, if every time you try to convince yourself to stay connected, your spirit grows tired, that is all the clarity you need. You might not be able to change how this person acts. You might not be able to make them see things differently. But you can choose how you respond. You can choose peace. You can choose stillness. You can choose to put your heart back into God's hands and say, I trust you more than I trust my feelings. This act of trust may not feel strong at first. It may feel quiet, even shaky. But in heaven, it is powerful. Every time you choose God over confusion, you're breaking chains. Every time you release something that drains your spirit, you're making room for something holy. And heaven celebrates every one of those moments. God knows how to heal what you had to release. He knows how to fill the empty spaces with better things. And even if letting go of this person brings tears or sadness, know that healing is already on the way. You are not being abandoned. You are being rescued. He sees the tenderness in your heart, the desire to do right by others, the way you want to believe the best even when it hurts. But God is the Father who loves too deeply to let you walk into pain when He already sees the danger ahead. That's why He speaks again, not to cause fear, but to confirm what you've been feeling but couldn't put into words. Type 1111 if you trust in God. You may be in a place right now where you're torn. There's a part of you that remembers good moments, kind words, shared laughter. But there's another part, deeper, quieter, that keeps pulling you back, warning you not to go further. That pull isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's your spirit responding to the Holy Spirit. It's the part of you that hears God even when the noise around you is loud. You might not have proof in your hands, but you have truth in your heart, and that truth is God saying, "This is not my best for you." When God brings warning about someone, it doesn't always mean they're evil. Sometimes it means they're not aligned with where He's taking you, not aligned with the peace He's trying to give you, not aligned with the healing He's bringing into your life. And no matter how much history you share, no matter how much hope you've poured in, God will never ask you to stay in something that keeps pulling you further away from the calm He's calling you into. You've likely prayed about this, maybe many times. You've asked for signs, you've asked for clarity, you've asked for direction. And even though things may look calm on the surface, there's something in your spirit that never quite rests. That is not confusion. That is the answer. When something is right for your life, God brings peace. When something is wrong, he brings tension, not to punish, but to wake you up. You were never created to carry relationships that deplete you. You were never called to sit in silence while your soul slowly dims. God made you to shine, to thrive, to walk in joy that isn't constantly interrupted by worry, fear, or uncertainty. And when someone brings more questions than comfort, more unease than uplift, more strain than strength, God begins to speak. He begins to highlight what you once overlooked. He shows you patterns, not just moments. And when you pay attention, you begin to see the truth behind the mask. Type 2323 if you agree. This person, whose name begins with M, may not be intentionally hurting you, but that doesn't mean their presence is right for you. Sometimes the most dangerous places are the ones that feel familiar. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones where no one did anything wrong, but your soul still feels wrong in their presence. God doesn't need chaos to speak. Sometimes he uses silence. Sometimes he uses a soft pull. Sometimes it's a gentle but firm no deep in your spirit that you can't ignore anymore. Letting go is never easy, especially when your heart has been involved. But obedience always leads to peace. Even if it doesn't feel peaceful right away, even if you walk away with tears in your eyes, the kind of peace that comes later will make sense of every hard step. It's the peace that follows you into your quiet moments. It's the peace that lets you sleep again. It's the peace that fills the space where confusion used to live. God doesn't ask for blind faith without offering comfort. He's already gone ahead of you. He knows what's coming if you stay, and he knows the blessing that's waiting if you trust him. You may not see it yet, but he does. He's preparing people who will speak life into you, situations that will grow your spirit, spaces where your soul will feel free and whole and seen. But he can't release those until you're willing to release what's holding you back. Do not be afraid of being alone for a while. Do not fear the empty space. Sometimes silence is what your spirit needs to hear God clearly again. And in that stillness, he will speak. In that quiet, he will heal. In that pause, he will reveal new direction, new joy, and new strength. You won't always get closure from others, but you will always get peace from God. That peace may not answer every question, but it will steady your heart. It will help you breathe again. It will gently remind you that you are not lost. You are being led, not away from love, but toward real love. Not away from people, but toward the right people. Not away from hope, but into it. He knows every thought you've had, every prayer you've whispered in the quiet, and every time you've tried to convince yourself to stay connected to someone who deep down doesn't bring peace. God never stops reaching for you. Even when you delay, even when you doubt yourself, he keeps showing up because your safety, your future, and your healing matter more to him than anything you're afraid of losing. Type 666 if you trust Jesus. There's a reason your spirit has felt unsettled. There's a reason your heart hesitates when you hear that person's name. There's a reason you felt unsure even though everything on the surface seems calm. That reason is God's gentle hand tugging at your soul, trying to guide you away before something that looks stable starts to crack beneath your feet. He doesn't wait until destruction to act. He sends the storm warning before the sky even darkens. You may be holding on to the idea that things could get better, that maybe if you're patient enough, kind enough, forgiving enough, this person will finally become who you hoped they would be. And while it is a beautiful thing to believe in people, God wants you to believe in his voice more. Some people aren't changing because they were never meant to continue with you. They served a season, and now that season is ending. And when you cling to what God is asking you to release, it doesn't bring more healing, it only creates more heartache. God is not disappointed in you for caring. He created you to care, but he also created you to be free. And when your soul starts to feel stuck in confusion, in cycles, in silence, he will send message after message until you finally take a step forward. You may not even know what's wrong. You may just feel that something about this person doesn't sit right anymore. And that's enough. That's reason enough to pause. That's reason enough to step back. That's reason enough to pray and listen more than ever. Type 2020 to claim miracles. This isn't about cutting people off harshly. This isn't about blame or anger. This is about your well-being. This is about your future. It's about recognizing that not everyone deserves access to the most tender parts of your heart. God never meant for you to carry connections that weigh you down, relationships that rob you of rest, or friendships that leave you questioning your worth. He wants you surrounded by those who carry light, who honor truth, and who bring peace. And if you've tried everything to hold on to someone who continues to bring emotional exhaustion into your life, God is asking you now to stop striving, to stop pouring into a cup that won't hold water, to stop sacrificing your peace for someone who doesn't value the place they've been given in your life. That is not cold. That is not selfish. That is called boundaries. And God uses boundaries to protect the calling He's placed inside you. You might feel unsure right now. You might wonder if walking away means you failed. But in God's eyes, choosing peace is never failure. Choosing clarity is not quitting. Choosing Him over confusion is always the right decision. He honors your obedience, even when it comes with tears. He lifts your heart when you feel the weight of goodbye. And He will never leave you empty-handed when you let go of something He never intended to stay. Sometimes the people we hold on to are the ones silently holding us back. They keep us in patterns that delay healing. They drain the energy we should be using to grow. They create emotional noise that drowns out the voice of God. And when He asks you to let go, it's not because He's punishing you. It's because He wants you to hear Him clearly again. He wants you to feel joy again. He wants you to walk without the constant weight of second-guessing someone's intentions. That person whose name begins with M may not even know the effect they've had on you. Or maybe they do, but they're unwilling to change. Either way, God knows. And He's not asking you to figure out how to fix them. He's asking you to take care of the heart He gave you. He's asking you to make room for the kind of peace that lasts, the kind that's not dependent on someone else's behavior, the kind that stays even when the people don't. You are not losing when you let go. You are winning in ways you can't yet see. You are choosing clarity. You are choosing quiet. You are choosing the kind of love that starts with God and flows inward. And from that place, He will begin to restore you. He will begin to heal you. He will begin to show you why this release was always a part of your protection. You won't have to explain it to everyone. You don't have to justify what God has placed in your heart. The people meant to walk with you will understand your silence. They'll recognize your strength. And they'll never require you to shrink your discernment to make them comfortable. Let this moment be a shift. Let it be sacred. Let it be the time you say yes to peace and no to unnecessary pain. There is something so kind, so tender about the way God keeps returning to your heart, reminding you, softly but surely, that your peace matters, that your spirit is worthy of rest, that your life is too precious to be entangled in a connection that leaves your soul questioning itself. Type 1919 to receive miracles. You've walked a long road trying to give this person the benefit of the doubt. You've been patient, hopeful, maybe even convinced yourself that you were just being too sensitive. But over time, what you felt inside hasn't gone away. If anything, it's grown. That subtle heaviness, that quiet discontent, the way your heart tightens when you think too long about them, it's not random, it's not overthinking, it's God, and He's speaking again. He isn't asking you to be harsh. He isn't asking you to push people away without reason. What He's doing is protecting the garden of your heart. There are some things that can only grow in peace, in stillness, in safety. And the presence of this person, this M, has been keeping that peace from fully forming in your life. You may not be able to point to a single event or moment that proves it, but you don't need evidence to trust what the Spirit is whispering to you. God's guidance is not always loud. Often, it's a deep, quiet knowing that won't leave you alone. Maybe you've told yourself that it's just a rough season, that if you give it time, things will settle. But time hasn't eased your heart, it's only revealed more reasons to step away. God will never lead you to carry something that constantly takes from you and never gives. He will never bless a bond that bruises your soul. And the fact that He has brought this same message to you over and over is not coincidence, it's grace. Type 222 if you believe God sees what you can't. When God shows you someone's spirit, believe Him the first time. It may look small now, a few words that didn't sit right, a tone that made you shrink, a promise broken without remorse, but God sees the roots beneath the surface. He knows where this road leads. He knows what this connection would cost you in the future. That's why He's calling you away now, before it takes a deeper toll. This isn't rejection, this is redirection, a sacred turning point, an invitation to peace. There is nothing weak about choosing to walk away from something that no longer serves your growth. There is strength in surrender, there is power in silence, and there is deep courage in obedience, especially when no one else understands what you're doing. But God sees, He knows, and He will not let your obedience return void. Letting go may feel like loss at first. It may stir sadness, maybe even loneliness, but that space will not stay empty for long. God fills every gap we make by trusting Him. He steps into the silence with whispers of comfort. He surrounds the ache with new joy. He restores what was broken with beauty that you didn't even know was possible. The emptiness won't last. But if you keep holding on to something that drains you, you won't have room to receive the next blessing He's already prepared. You've waited long enough. You've questioned long enough. Now it's time to believe what you feel deep in your spirit. This isn't about blame. This isn't about anger. This is about alignment. It's about giving your soul permission to breathe again. And God is standing right beside you, not to push you, but to walk with you every step of the way. He knows your heart is tender. He knows how hard it is to step away from someone who once felt important. But He's asking you to remember who you are. You are not meant to be manipulated. You are not meant to feel small. You are not meant to stay tangled in a connection that leaves you second-guessing your own worth. You are His. You are chosen. You are called to peace. You may feel like you're standing at a crossroads, but you're not alone. God is there. He's not rushing you. He's waiting with love. And when you take that step forward, no matter how shaky, no matter how unsure, He will meet you with peace. The kind of peace that stays, the kind that heals, the kind that tells you, even in silence, you did the right thing. Not because He's tired of repeating it, but because His purpose for you is too great to be delayed by what no longer belongs. His mercy has been gentle, His whispers have been patient, His guidance has been consistent. And now, He's asking you to make peace with what He's shown you, and to walk forward not with fear but with strength in your spirit and rest in your soul. Type Amen if you believe. There's nothing more powerful than a child of God who finally decides to trust His voice over everything else, over emotions, over memories, over the fear of what might happen next. And that's where you are now. You've reached a moment that's less about who M is and more about who you are becoming. This message was never just about them, it's always been about your future, your healing, your clarity, and your closeness with God. You've grown through this, even if it hurt, even if you cried in secret, even if you wrestled with what to do, whether to stay, whether to try again. You showed compassion, you offered grace, you waited, you hoped. And now God is gently placing His hand over your heart and saying, "You did your part, now let me do mine." Letting go is not the end of something, it's the beginning of everything He's promised. What you're releasing isn't love. What you're walking away from isn't purpose. It's distraction. It's delay. It's the weight that's been quietly holding you back from the joy God has been trying to hand you. And now, as you take that step forward in faith, everything begins to shift. Type 1212. If you walk by faith, the kind of peace you've longed for is not on the other side of holding on. It's on the other side of surrender. When you release what God never intended to stay, your heart makes room for something greater, something real, pure, holy, lasting. You don't have to chase what's fading. You don't have to hold your breath, waiting for someone to finally value your presence. You don't have to live in emotional confusion, hoping one day they'll see your worth. God sees your worth. He always has. And when He asks you to walk away, it's not because you are not enough. It's because He knows you are too much to waste. You are too called, too precious, too needed for the next season to keep pouring your light into someone who doesn't carry the capacity to honor it. This is the kind of message that settles into the soul, not because it's loud, but because it's true. Deep down, you've already known. You've known for a while that things weren't right, that their presence brought more tension than calm, that your spirit dimmed a little more every time you ignored that inner voice. But God never stopped speaking. He never gave up. And even now, He's not disappointed in you. He's proud that you're finally listening. The truth is, love isn't supposed to confuse. Trust isn't supposed to waver. Connection isn't supposed to feel like you're constantly second-guessing yourself. God is not the author of chaos. He writes peace into every chapter He authors. And when His peace has gone missing, it's a sign the page needs to turn. This final part of your journey is about release. It's about surrendering the story you hoped would work out and stepping into the one God is already writing for you. You are not going backward. You are not losing. You are walking into healing, into restoration, into divine alignment with people, moments, and callings that won't drain you but will pour back into you with the same depth and kindness that you've always given so freely. This is where you breathe again, where the tension in your chest starts to loosen, where you remember who you are, not in the eyes of others, but in the eyes of the one who made you. You are not difficult to love. You are not too sensitive. You are not imagining things. You are deeply seen, deeply valued, and deeply guided. And now, as you say goodbye in your spirit to the person who no longer aligns with your peace, you are saying hello to a future that has been waiting on the other side of your obedience. You will not walk alone. You will not walk in lack. God goes before you. He walks beside you. He follows behind you. His hand is on your life, and His love is not finished. In fact, it's just beginning. Every time you chose patience, God saw it. Every time you stayed quiet and kind, He counted it. Every tear you cried when no one noticed, He collected it. And now, He will return it to you as joy, as strength, as peace so deep it silences every lie that tried to convince you that staying stuck was your only option. You're free now, truly free. Not because someone said so, but because you finally let God finish what He started. He brought the warning. He gave you the signs. He whispered through the restlessness. And now, you've listened. What comes next is peace. What comes next is healing. What comes next is the life you almost missed because of who you thought you had to hold on to.